Located just outside Verdun in the department of Meuse in northern France, INEOS Baleycourt employs 150 staff, has a turnover of 250 million euros and is one of a number of businesses that exist within the enterprises portfolio.
Baleycourt is a standalone business made up of a biodiesel business and an esters business, which came into INEOS in 2001.
In 2008, INEOS formed what was to prove, for a short time at least, a highly profitable joint venture with local farmers to meet the growing government-mandated demand for biodiesel. Locally grown rapeseed would be crushed on site and turned into biodiesel, which would be sold into what looked like being a guaranteed market.
That joint venture was called Champlon, and a large biodiesel plant was built here that started up in 2009. And for 2 years was very successful and profitable.
The rapeseed is delivered to site like this. It's like a mustard seed. The first stage is we crush it to open up the seeds to extract the oil. From this process we get a crude oil, a crude rapeseed oil. We also get a byproduct which is meal, which goes to animal feed. The oil is then refined to take out the impurities. The refined oil is then converted into biodiesel, and in the future we'll be making food grade oil.
We receive the seed by road up to 50 tons per hour to feed the process. Seeds are unloading in this big hole. From the lorry, the seeds are taken through the crushing plant behind me, where we extract the oil from the seed. Then the oil is converted into biodiesel, and the residue, the meal, is used for feed. So there is no waste in the process. What is not used to make biodiesel is used to make meal. Meal is used to feed the cattle. Biodiesel is stored in these big tanks, 2 million liters each, and then from tank to the lorries, and lorries deliver terminal and refineries all over the north of France.
At its peak, the Champlon joint venture was producing 140,000 tonnes of biofuel and 180,000 tonnes of rape meal every year. But changes in European legislation have had a massive impact on demand.
Biodiesel got a lot of support from European and national governments in the early years, but subsequently the European appetite for first-generation biofuels, that's biofuels made from crops, has waned somewhat.
After 2 successful years, the biodiesel business here started to look quite unprofitable, and our joint venture partners were no longer interested in continuing with this project.
The site was working under a significant debt burden, and in the longer term wasn't going to be sustainable to service that debt as well as meet profitability targets. We went forward with a project to renegotiate that debt level and to acquire the 50% of the joint venture that had been owned by our partners.
For Ashley and the management team at Baleycourt, regaining 100% ownership and planning for the future required a truly entrepreneurial approach when faced with a complex set of challenges.
In the past, the biodiesel and the esters businesses were run separately, but today, if one of the assets is being underutilised, and that's the case in biofuels currently, we can look at changing that asset and moving it into the esters business to actually increase the capacity of the esters business.
We have some challenge on reliability of the assets. They have to run quite at the maximum of capacity, and this is a quite challenging problem. We are working daily on improving our cost, variable cost, fixed cost, every cost at site.
The demand for biodiesel in Europe is flat and is forecast to be flat going forward. We see an opportunity to diversify away from biodiesel to some extent to improve asset loading at relatively low cost.
We've just recently approved a small expansion to go into rapeseed oil for food application.
The use of rapeseed grown locally, crushed locally and converted into edible oil is a relatively small investment for the site, but opens up a significant new market for us.
We have to make some modification on the process to change some parameters in our refined assets to reach the perfect specification.
And achieving that correct specification requires considerable background research before production can begin.
My role is to manage and organise the work in the lab This involves quality control of both raw materials and end product, including chemical and physical measurements of products and investigations into non-conformity.
The esters business has had to modify its portfolio from time to time to address concerns for the health and safety of some of the end products that our compounds go into. So we have worked very closely with our customers over the last few years to develop our portfolio to meet the requirements of new legislation.
To make esters, we need liquid alcohol, which is stored here in these tanks, and we need solid acids that you can see in these big bags. Alcohol and the acid are put into this reactor where they are mixed and heated to get the right esterification reaction. The second stage of the process is purification, which takes place in this stripping column, after which it goes into storage just over there. The product is stored here in these tanks. Before loading, the operator selects the right grade of ester from all the different storage tanks. The trucks then park here for loading to take place.
Clearly the key point or the key element of the business for the future are clearly matching customer trend, having as much as possible involvement in new development, which is absolutely key. All the people here taking care of the customer, let's say from the day the production finished to the delivery to the customer, they are taking care of everything, and they are also supporting the sales team and the production team.
It was clear to make this business a success and to make Baleycourt sustainable for the future, some very entrepreneurial, challenging risks were required. I think we achieved that very successfully back in 2013, reducing our debt burden from 30 million down to nothing, and to exit our joint venture partners in a successful way where they remained happy seed suppliers to us and we took over the business 100%. That was a clear example of a great entrepreneurial approach.